Hello, this is PioSOLVER FAQ second part video. I'm going to go through some commonly asked questions. So the first one is, why are EVs shown on 13 by 13 grid, not an average? So let's see what this question is about. For example, this is a flop case and this is a continuation bet, and let's look at the hand like Queen 9, for example. So we see EV for a call, which is 4-1, and EV for a raise, which is 40. And you would expect that this is only like one number, and we have 4 combinations below. You would expect that this number is some kind of average, right? For all those. And this is not true. I mean, this is true. We are taking the average, but the average is weighted by how often the action is actually taken. So when we have call 41.4 here, you can see that this is almost this number, and the average would be way lower, right? The reason for that is that those hands almost never call, so all the weight goes to this. And this makes sense, I think, because this is more representative for what you are actually making when you are calling, right? The same goes for raising. The average for raising would be close to 0 because we have minus 12 here, minus 12 here, minus 6 here, and plus 41 here, but in fact it is 40 because this is almost all the weight here. And the same goes if we just show EV. So here, this is average, right, from those 4. You can see, right? But I mean, average by weight, right? And when we go, let's say to the turn, and then suddenly the EV for Queen 9 is bigger. It's again almost this number. And the reason for that EV is weighted by current weight, and as we can see, the current weight for this is a lot, and those are close to 0, right? You see this? You can see that you can see the weight here. This is almost empty, right? Or this way as well, but this is 0, 0, right? So that's the reason, and those numbers are for EV and for strategy and EV as well. Those are weighted average. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, another question is, how do I run a benchmark? A benchmark is a small test which tells you how good your CPU is for the purpose of the solver. And the idea was that there should be one way to an easy way to compare how good different CPUs are, so you can make better purchasing decisions when it comes to hardware. So the way to run it is you go to Tools, Solver, Run Arbitrary Command, but also you can use just Ctrl+B, and this window will pop up. And here you type bench, right? And then send. We need to wait a while for it to complete. You can see that it's working. So the bench here is almost 9.8 seconds, and this CPU is 3 years old i7 quad-core CPU. Normally this bench is a bit better here, but I'm recording the video and that takes a bit of resources. We can bring up our server here just to compare. Let me connect the postflop solver. Yeah, and this is our server, which is 16 core computer. So when we run a bench here, we'll see that this is much better, right? 2.955 seconds. So this is more than 3 times faster. Yeah. So that's the idea. You can see that when you rent a server like that, you can have performance which is 3 times better than on a desktop. Okay, so another question is, how do I deactivate the solver? This is useful when you want to move the solver from one computer to another, or you know that you are going to have major hardware upgrades which are going to deactivate the license. So you again go to arbitrary command, and here just type deactivate, and then press send. I'm not going to do that now because then I would need to activate again, and yeah, I'm not going to do that. But if you press send here, it's going to be deactivated. You will be able to test that when you close the window and open it again. It will not connect anymore. And then after that, you can connect at another computer. So it is that simple. Okay, so another question is, how do I use round strategy feature? Okay, so for that we need some kind of full tree, maybe this one. So we have a tree here, which is again like some kind of six mark spot. And what people don't like often is that those strategies are very, very random. There are no round. They are maybe not random, but they are not round numbers, and they are difficult to remember or make sense of. So the idea is that maybe we could round them to something, and then hope that this new solution is not that bad after all. So but then also that the strategy is easier to use. So as this is a common demand, I'm going to demonstrate how to use that. So we go to tools and then round strategies, and here we have this window, and we can choose what streets we want to round. We can round on the flop, and the turn, and all the streets as well. So what I'm going to do now is round on the flop and turn for both players. So both players will round the strategies, and then we choose what multiplies should be. So if you want to run around like 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, it will be 10. But if you only want to make it 0, 50%, or 100%, you make it like this, right? So you choose a chunk, so to speak, and then it rounds to using those chunks. So like this, it will round to 0, 25%, 50%, or 75%, or 100, of course. So we are going to round to this, right? It takes a while, but now it's done. We can refresh, and we can see that those strategies are rounded, right, to 0, 0.1, 0.1, 0.2, right? Notice that the overall strategies, like here, they are still not rounded because they are average out of all the combinations below, and the rounding works on combination level and not whole hand group. And that makes sense because it wouldn't make sense to like round king jack suited to one thing when you have a flush draw and when you have not a flush draw, right? So rounding is at combination level, so this is rounded but not this. We can also see how the exploitability changed after that. So this solution was very good. It was to 0.027, right? But if you calculate results again, we'll see that this is much worse now. Still very decent, but much worse. And the reason for that is that by rounding, so by changing strategies, we lost some accuracy. It's easier to exploit us, and maybe it wouldn't be easier for a human, but in theory it would, and that would be like what we care about, right? Here. Okay, so another question is, how do I run multi-flop aggregation report? So in a part 1 of FAQ video, I showed you how to run a report on one tree, but what people always I mean often want, is how to run them on many flops. So once you have many solutions on the same flop and you want some averages, then I'm going to look. Maybe I can't find it. Yeah, so here, for example, I have a lot of saves from the same case. They're all solved. A small save. So what you do, you load one of them. This is some kind of 3-bet pot. And let's say you want to see what is the average response for a c-bet across all those saved. So you navigate to that decision point. We are responding to a continuation bet here. And then to plugins aggregation, multiple files run as aggregated frequencies analyzed. And then it shows you in the new version, it shows you which files will be included in the report. So there are a lot of them. And it also shows you what was the original flop subset you have chosen. So you can see weights here as well. Okay, I'm going to call it video example so we can load it later. And let's run it. You see that this runs. It will take a longer while because every file needs to be loaded, and that's a major bottleneck here. And we have 630 files. So that will run for a while, unfortunately. I actually expected it to be a bit faster, but what can you do? Okay, so while we are waiting for this to complete, maybe I will look at other questions. Yeah, I think we will just have to wait. Okay, so maybe there will be, I'm going to make some remarks about those multi-file reports. So those were very useful before preflop solver arrived, and then you could try to approximate EVs or average, strategies for many spots by solving a lot of flops with given preflop ranges. Now, maybe it's better to just solve from preflop, but then again, in preflop solver you can never have much accuracy postflop because you need to cut the tree to make it smaller because those preflop trees are humongous. So you can still use that, inputting like close to optimal preflop ranges and then solving a lot of flops and then generating those reports. Yeah, I mean, while it takes a while, it's still very fast comparing to how long it takes to solve 600 trees in the first place, right? So this is already like the easiest part of the job here. Okay, so I'm waiting. I'm not even going to cut this from the video because I just want to, give an idea how long it takes. I think we will be below 2 minutes though, I hope. In the meantime, I'm going to find those reports. So they appear in the reports when you have this folder with your solver. I have more things than you here, but same subfolders. And then you go to reports, and we can find for hours. Oh yeah, this video example. And we have a lot of files here. They are similar to this to what we got in one tree report. We can look into that. What we have here. Oh, doesn't fit. Okay. So first we have EVs and equity for all the hands. So you see this is like hand order. And then you have those orders. You have those orders here, like generated from this subset of flop, and you can use that in range selector, by the way. So you can copy that, and then you can go here, and you can paste preflop order and make a new one here. So this is useful. and then there is the same preflop order but for OOP. They could be different because they depend on the like specific spot. So it might be the case that for 3-betting in general, other hands are better than 4-10. Yeah, but we see that it's already like what is more or less expected. Like those hands are here, and it starts with that. So that's good. And then there is the major file, which is a report, and then it shows you frequencies on every flop which were included, like equity, EV, equity realization, and as well as frequency and percentages, like how often we raise, how often we call. And at the bottom there should be a summary, so like sum of all of those. So like we see, in general we raised 5.4% and call 61.2. Yeah, so this is how it works. I hope it's straightforward. So again, first you generate script, either input some flop subset or generate some random ones. You solve that, and then you run this report. Okay, so that's it. Another question is how do I build and use limit trees? So we have this tab here for limit tree building, and this is very similar to this, but there are a bit different options because limit works differently. So yeah, again, you input the board, you input starting pot, you input bet size on the street. So in the classical limit hold'em, this turn and river will be the same. And then you insert cap as well. And there are some other options to limit the tree. You can make it smaller like that, for example, if you don't care about capping the flop. Yeah, and that's it. And then you click build tree and go, and that's the same way. No limit trees work. Okay, so another question is the frequency. I don't know, this one I'm not going to answer now. Why node locking doesn't work on small saves? So we have small save, one of the small saves loaded now, and when I try to go here and to node locking, here, I get this warning that this is impossible to do on the incomplete tree. And the reason for that is any change in strategy, which when you're going to lock some nodes, you are going to change the strategy first, and any change in strategy requires EVs to be recalculated, because once you play differently, you make different amount of money, obviously. But to do that, you need the whole tree because you need solutions on the reverse. So unfortunately, all the tree operations like node locking and rounding are not going to work on a small saves. You need to do that on a full one. So again, when maybe I'm going to load some full save. Just wait. This is difficult to navigate like here, and maybe this one. So when you have a full save, which is a big file, as big as it takes in memory, then you can do all those operations. And this opens, and you can use that. But then it doesn't matter on a small save. So what you would usually do is once you solve the tree, you would make a small save first, just to keep your results. Small save video. And then you still have the whole tree in memory. It wasn't like that in previous versions of the solver, so it wasn't possible to make a small save and retain the whole tree in memory, but now it is. So you would usually save the results and then play around with the tree, like round or node lock or whatever. So just so you have the results, just in case if you mess up with something. Okay, so another question is how to see equity against raising, calling, and folding range. So this question is, for example, we have continuation bet here, and then we have raise, right? And we want to see our equity against this raise, our equity against this call, and our equity against this fold. Equity against fold is interesting, by the way, because we would like to know how much we gain, so to speak, like how much of equity our opponent folded. So there is no way to see that on this screen, but you can see them separately by going, like, you go to array. We are IP player because we made that continuation bet, and then you go to raise from OOP and you show our equity. We are IP, so you show that. And our equity against a raise is 39. Our equity against the call is 40.7. And our equity against the folding range is 65.5. So that's expected. Of course, we have the highest equity against the hands which fold against our bet. Maybe it's a bit unexpected that against a calling range our equity is already very low. So that's something interesting. Okay, so that's the way you do that. And another question is what those 4 checkboxes do. So I'm going to go one by one. So okay, so as you can see here, like this checkbox makes some rectangles smaller, and what it does is actually scales them by the current range. So when we don't have that checked, like it looks like all the king tens are in the range, but we know that this hand should fold, should have folded against the continuation bet on the flop. So it should those shouldn't be anymore in range anymore. This one and this one. But when we look at default view, all of them are in full. So when we want them to be scaled, we need to use this checkbox, right? And now we see that this is empty, right? And only backdoor and the flash door close the flop, so only they are available now, and those are empty, and total is smaller as well. So I recommend have this checked all the time, because this is very useful. Refresh on new selection. This when we go without that, when we go back and forth in the tree, it doesn't refresh anything. So we would need to click our cells every time. So we would need to click our cells every time. But when it's checked, we can just browse and it's going to refresh automatically. And this is very convenient. So this one should be checked all the time as well. And this bars with proportional to weight. So without that, when we show strategy, for example, for a flush draw, we see that this is fold 100%, fold 100%, fold 100%, and call 100%. And the average is for a call is 25% here. So what happens is only 25% is in green here, and 75 is in blue. But that's not really what we want, because we don't have this hand and this hand in range anymore. So it's in reality is closer to like 50% to 50%, right? Maybe a bit more for a fold because this hand is more frequent. So when we click that, we'll see that this changed to weighted average. So I recommend this as well, and especially for hands. Let me go for a call here, and then I don't know, like 7 of all in. Then we can see that 6 so for example, this is like flush draw completed, and we face a shove on the river, and we can see that this hand calls 100% basically, and this is all in green because all others are not in range anymore. So we don't care that they fold, because we don't have them, like since the flop and then the turn again we wouldn't have them. So we don't care about those hands. We want to see all of it in green because we always call when we have that, right? But without that, it would be average from those three hands. So 1, 0, 0, that would be 1/3, and yeah. So this should be checked as well. Okay. So another question is, why do I need to switch solvers from postflop to preflop? Okay, so this question is for edge users, and as you have noticed, there are two solvers in your folder. One is, oh, I have a lot of them. But there are two solvers. One is like PioSOLVER Edge 1.8, and another is PioSOLVER Edge 1.8 preflop. And while they are almost the same solver, the preflop solver uses twice, I mean 2x less memory, like 50% of what the postflop solver uses. But the cost for that is speed and accuracy. So I don't recommend using that for postflop solving. So when you want to solve on postflop tree, then you just connect to postflop solver, and it shows that. And when you want preflop tree, then you connect to preflop one. Yeah, unfortunately, preflop trees are so big that it took a lot of optimization to make them work at all, and the cost of that is speed and some accuracy. So yeah, that's the reason you need to switch them between preflop and postflop. Okay, so and another question is, why are the numbers on 13x13 grid not shown? So maybe this question requires some context. I'm going to load, for example, this. So we can see that when you click, for example, strategy, we see those overall numbers here. But what happens is that when we build a tree, when there is more options. So for example, when we add a confirmation back here, so now we have like two options, so three overall. So we still see that, right? And but if we go for fourth option, yeah, and now we don't. So the reason for that is that there is not enough space, and when we make this big enough, they will appear again. Yeah, I'm sorry, but because I'm recording like part of my screen, so I will make it big. So you see they appear again, and you can make them smaller in two. You can make this area bigger in two ways. One is this bar here, move it like that, and you see that you don't see them. But when you move it back, you see them again. So unfortunately, on some lower resolution screens, it might be impossible to see those numbers once there is a lot of actions to choose from. Usually you won't have problems seeing them when you have only 3 actions. But once you have 4 or more, there often is not enough space. So you need a high resolution screen to see them. Okay, so that's it. And there is one last question, which will require some more time. That's why I have left it for last. And this question is, how do I compare a value of actions? So this question is, so for example, when we have like this, my favorite spot, like 3-byte pot here, and we solve that tree, and we want to know how valuable it is for OOP player, for example, to be able to make a continuation bet. You may ask for how worse would it be if OOP always checks, right, and never see bet. So the way to compare that is to run the tree 2 times. Once you run the full tree, and then you remove this action, and you build it and build it. You see that there's no bet anymore, and you solve it again, and then you compare overall EVs, and this is important to compare in a root. So in this place here, so you see like overall EV like this, or you can see it. Yeah. So I'm going to do one example, but I'm going to use my server for that because it's way faster. So we will be actually able to do some interesting case. Okay, so maybe first is maybe to make it a bit interesting, we'll first solve this tree. It should take like 15 seconds or something like that. Maybe I'm going to let it run a bit longer. Yeah, okay, this is enough. So we have those, and we see that EV for out of position players 104.969, and now we would like to see how valuable it is if we have pot bet available on the flop as well. So this new tree, OOP have two continuation bet sizes, half a pot and a pot, and our question is how valuable this option is. So we build the tree again and then we run it again. This one will take a bit longer to solve because it's a bigger tree, but hopefully not that much longer. Yeah, I'm going to run it to some decent accuracy, so we have something to compare. Also, I'm going to bring some notepad here. Do some calculations. Actually, maybe Python's shell would be more useful for that purpose. Okay, this is already good accuracy. So we can see that our new accuracy, our new EV is so EV with two sizes is 1.6, this, right? And EV with one size was here, so 0.4. So we can see that the difference is difference is almost 2 chips per hand, and this is 2 BB per 100 hands. So this is actually a quite big difference. So this is a valuable option to have, this overbet continuation bet. And yeah, again, this is important to compare at this point. So at the beginning of the tree, you can see it here, or you can see it here as well. What some people try to do, they try to compare EV for an action. So they go here and then compare. They look at EV of OOP, and this is something, and they go here and this is something, but it doesn't make sense to do that this way, because once we have more options, the range distribution for them will be different. So even though it may turn out that this bet 94 is less valuable here than it was in the previous tree, but it doesn't mean anything because now we have this new option. So the only way to compare value of actions is to look at the beginning of the tree. So like overall EV gain. So that's the only way. So that's it. That was second part of FAQ video. I hope you find it useful. Don't hesitate to ask more questions, and maybe then there will be enough to make third part of this FAQ video. Thank you for watching.